Get her out of my hotel right now. She doesn't belong here. Those were the first words that sliced through the elegant silence of the Lakeside Pinnacle lobby. The voice came from Harlan Whitaker, the hotel's general manager, tall, red-faced, and trembling with arrogance. The words echoed across the marble floors, drawing startled glances from guests sipping coffee near the crystal-lit lounge. A black woman in a gray hoodie stood quietly before him, her hands folded, her posture calm, her eyes steady as if she had seen storms like this before going into the story. Tell me where you're watching from, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to give this story a like. It helps more people hear stories that matter. Now, let's begin. It was a gray October afternoon in Chicago, the kind where the rain clings to every window and the streets glisten with cold reflection. Olivia Brooks stepped into her own hotel, though no one here seemed to know that yet. The Lakeside Pinnacle stood tall over Lake Michigan, a five-star property she had built from nothing, a symbol of her rise from a janitor's daughter in Detroit to the CEO of Lakeside Hospitality Group, worth over $1 billion. But today, she wasn't here as a CEO. She wore jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie, carrying only a small travel bag and a prepaid reservation under the name O. Bennett. She wanted to see, firsthand, how her staff treated guests who didn't look rich, powerful, or white. At the reception desk, 3 employees were on duty. Jenna Caldwell, a weary but sharp-tongued receptionist in her early 30s, Derek Singh, the tech-savvy front desk clerk who managed the booking system, and Caleb Monroe, a young trainee eager to impress his boss. Behind them stood Harlan Whitaker, the man she had been warned about in anonymous reports, accused of discrimination, cover-ups, and something darker, embezzlement. "Good afternoon," Olivia said with a polite smile, checking in under the name Bennett. Jenna's eyes moved from the name to Olivia's clothes, then to her skin. The pause was short, but it said everything. "Ma'am, are you sure you have the right hotel?" she asked, forcing a smile. "This is the Lakeside Pinnacle, a luxury property." Olivia kept her tone calm. "Yes. The reservation should be under O. Bennett, prepaid, with Lakeview." Derek leaned over the counter, typing on the computer. "Strange," he murmured. "Nothing's showing up. Maybe you booked the budget Lakeside Inn downtown?" Olivia's phone buzzed silently in her pocket. It was her assistant, Leah Simmons, watching remotely through the hidden AI-linked recorder in Olivia's jacket. Leah had set up voice recognition to log every word spoken during this test. "I'm sure it's this one," Olivia said evenly. Harlan stepped closer, his cologne sharp, his tone dripping with suspicion. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see some ID and a credit card. Our policy," Olivia handed over both. Her American Express black card gleamed faintly under the chandelier light, but Harlan barely looked at it before sliding it aside. "We'll verify this," he said, his voice tightening. "But until then, I suggest you wait outside. We've had issues with people trying to sneak in before." "Sneak in?" The words stung, not because they were new, but because she'd heard them before, years ago, when she was 18, humiliated at a hotel in Detroit for looking suspicious. That memory never left her. It was the day she promised herself to own a hotel one day, where no one would ever be treated that way again. Yet here she was, decades later, in her own lobby, hearing the same tone, the same disbelief in her humanity. "I'll wait right here," Olivia said softly, setting her small bag beside her. Jenna leaned toward Derek, whispering, "Run the card again. Check the fraud list." Derek's fingers flew over the keyboard, his smirk growing. "Nope, no reservation. And get this, our system shows a flagged alert under that name. Fraud suspicion." "Fraud?" Olivia repeated, Her voice didn't rise, but it carried weight. That's impossible. Harlan folded his arms. Ma'am, if you can't provide proof of your reservation, I'll have to ask you to leave. We don't tolerate false claims here. From across the lobby, a young woman lifted her phone discreetly. Her name was Chloe Bennett, a travel blogger with 500,000 followers, visiting Chicago for a story on hotel ethics. Beside her sat Lucas Rivera, a freelance journalist. He whispered, "You're getting this, right?" Chloe nodded. Camera steady, Maria Gonzalez, the hotel's concierge, stood frozen near the elevators. She recognized Olivia's face from the company's annual magazine, the same woman who had built the lakeside empire with quiet strength. But fear gripped her. Speaking up against Harlan could cost her job, and her family depended on her paycheck. Jenna reached across the counter and tried to take Olivia's bag. "Ma'am, if you don't leave, we'll have to involve security. Touch my property again," Olivia said gently, "and you'll regret it." Harlan's jaw clenched. "Security!" he barked. Tyrone Jenkins, the guard on duty, approached uncertainly. He was a tall black man with kind eyes, visibly uncomfortable. "What's going on here?" he asked. "This woman," Harlan said, pointing sharply, "is refusing to leave after being caught trying to use a fake reservation." Tyrone looked at Olivia, his eyes narrowing in thought. Something about her seemed familiar, but he couldn't place it yet. "Let's calm down," he said. "Ma'am, maybe we can step aside and figure this out." Before Olivia could answer, Jenna grabbed her arm to pull her away. The motion was rough. Her nails scraped Olivia's skin, leaving a thin red mark on her wrist. The shock rippled through the room. Chloe gasped audibly. Lucas whispered, "Did she just?" But Olivia raised her hand calmly, her voice even. "You just made a mistake you'll never forget." Harlan sneered. "Oh, really? You think you can threaten me? You have no idea who you're talking to." "I think," Olivia replied. "It's the other way around. Chloe's live stream hit over 500 viewers in minutes." Comments poured in, outraged, stunned, furious. "Is this real? Why are they treating her like that? That's assault." Leah's voice came through Olivia's earpiece, quiet but urgent. "We've got everything on record, Ms. Brooks. Every word." Harlan turned toward the back office, muttering to Derek, "Call the police. Tell them she's trespassing." As he walked away, Olivia stood still, her heart calm but heavy. Tyrone watched her closely, something clicking in his mind. He remembered that face. He'd seen it once in a company newsletter. Lakeside's CEO, Olivia Brooks. He stepped back, his voice low. "Wait a minute," he murmured. But Harlan wasn't listening. He was too busy rehearsing his lie, too blinded by pride to see the storm that was about to break right above his head. And so, under the cold light of the lobby chandeliers, surrounded by marble and glass, a woman who owned the building stood accused of not belonging in it. The rain outside beat harder against the windows, as if the sky itself demanded justice. What no one in that room knew was that this quiet woman, mocked, grabbed, and insulted, would soon bring the entire system crashing down, piece by piece, in just 15 minutes. Their world would change forever. Harlan's voice thundered across the lobby as he barked into his phone. "Get the police here now! We've got a trespasser pretending to be a guest!" The arrogance in his tone filled the air like smoke, choking every ounce of reason left in the room. Olivia stood still, her eyes calm but calculating, behind her. Chloe Bennett's live stream counter ticked past 1,500 viewers, and the comment feed exploded, people demanding justice, calling out the blatant discrimination unfolding live. The marble floor reflected the chaos, a manager pacing, a trembling receptionist, and one composed woman who knew exactly how this would end. "Ma'am." "Step away from the desk," Derek warned, his voice shaking slightly. "You're already in enough trouble." Olivia turned toward him slowly, her voice even. "The only trouble here, Derek, is the one you've made for yourself." Her tone carried a quiet authority that made Jenna glance away in guilt. But Harlan was far from done. He strode back toward her, waving his phone. "The police are on their way. I don't know who you think you are, but you're finished. People like you ruin the reputation of places like this." The words "people like you" echoed through the lobby like a cold slap. Every guest nearby went silent. Chloe zoomed in on Olivia's face. No anger, just quiet resolve. She reached into her pocket, pressed the small recording device hidden in her jacket, and whispered, "Leah, it's escalating." Miles away in the corporate office, Leah Simmons was already watching multiple live feeds from the hotel's internal cameras. Olivia's AI security system, coded by her own development team, had quietly activated the moment Harlan used the word trespasser. Every audio, every camera angle, every employee's face was now being logged and uploaded to secure cloud storage. Leah's voice came through Olivia's earpiece. "We've got them all. Ms. Brooks, keep calm. The board's watching live now." Olivia took a deep breath, her fingers brushing the faint scratch on her wrist left by Jenna. The pain was small, but symbolic. She'd endured far worse in her rise to the top. Boardroom betrayals, racist rejections, even anonymous death threats after she became the youngest black woman to lead a hotel chain in America. This, she thought, was nothing new. What mattered was the proof. "You're still here," Harlan sneered. "Security! Remove her! Now!" Tyrone Jenkins hesitated. He had recognized her fully by now. His heart pounded in his chest as he met her eyes. She gave him a small, knowing nod, an unspoken command not to act just yet. "Mr. Whitaker," Tyrone said carefully, "maybe we should verify the system again. There might be a glitch." Harlan turned on him. "A glitch? The only glitch is you not doing your job. I'm the manager here. You follow my orders, or you'll be out by morning." Tyrone bit his tongue. Chloe's camera captured the entire exchange, while Lucas, the journalist beside her, began typing notes for his article titled "Discrimination at the Lakeside Pinnacle, a Luxury Mirage." Olivia, still calm, reached for her phone and tapped a message to Leah. "Call Rebecca, tell her to stand by." Meanwhile, Jenna tried to justify herself, her voice trembling. "Mr. Whitaker, maybe she really does have a booking. It's just the system." "Quiet." "Jenna," he snapped, "you're too soft. That's why people take advantage." Jenna's lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, she looked at Olivia with something like shame. Her conscience was battling her fear. She was a single mother. Her job meant survival. Still, the look in Olivia's eyes, steady, dignified, shook her deeply. Derek, meanwhile, was hard at work behind the desk, typing commands Olivia instantly recognized. He was in the admin console of the Lakeside reservation system, her system. "He's accessing the back end," Leah warned in her ear. "He's changing the reservation logs manually." Olivia didn't move, didn't speak, but inside, she was furious. Derek was trying to delete her reservation in real time to make the lie permanent. "Leah," she whispered softly, "mirror his actions." "Already done," Leah replied. "He just triggered a traceable security breach. We've got his login credentials, timestamps, everything. That's a federal offense." Outside, the rain intensified, beating against the tall glass windows like 1,000 tiny fists. Inside, tension thickened. Harlan's arrogance only grew louder as he strutted across the lobby, performing for his staff and guests. "You see," he said mockingly, "this is why we can't let just anyone walk in here. Standards matter. Discipline matters." Olivia tilted her head slightly, her voice low. "And integrity. Does that matter too?" Harlan froze. Excuse me? Integrity? She repeated. The quality of being honest. Fair. Accountable. Her words were slow, deliberate, cutting through his act like a knife. He smirked, pretending not to be rattled. You don't lecture me about integrity. Miss, I've run this place for 15 years. 15 years, Olivia said quietly, and 5 hidden complaints of discrimination buried under your name. Want to explain that? The color drained from Harlan's face. What did you say? Olivia didn't answer. Instead, she glanced toward Maria Gonzalez, the young concierge who had been silently watching, her hands trembling. Their eyes met for a brief moment, Olivia's calm giving Maria courage. Finally, Maria stepped forward. Mr. Whitaker, maybe you should stop. This woman isn't lying. I've seen her photo before. Photo? Harlan scoffed. What photo? In the company newsletter, Maria said, voice shaking. She's... Enough, Harlan shouted, his voice cracking. You're all out of line. At that moment, Lucas's live stream hit 3,000 viewers. The comment section turned into a storm of outrage. That manager's done. She's the CEO. Look at her face. Someone tagged the news. And then came a moment of eerie silence. The fake police Harlan had called arrived. 2 men in cheap uniforms, clearly not real officers. Their badges were crooked, their demeanor all wrong. Tyrone instantly knew. Those aren't cops, he said under his breath. Olivia didn't flinch. She simply stepped forward, standing between the men and the reception desk. You should leave now, she told them calmly. This is about to become a criminal investigation. The men exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond. Tyrone stepped beside her, his presence steady, protective. She's right, he said firmly. You two better walk away while you can. Harlan's voice faltered. What are you doing? Jenkins, they're here to help. No, Tyrone said coldly. They're here to cover for you. The words cut deep. The 2 fake officers turned and left quietly, disappearing into the rain outside. Harlan looked around, his authority collapsing in real time. Chloe's camera caught his trembling hands. Miss Brooks, Leah's voice whispered in her ear. Rebecca's on standby. Say the word. Olivia took one small step closer to Harlan, her voice barely above a whisper. You should have checked who I was before you touched me. Harlan blinked, confusion turning to dread. Who are you? You'll find out soon enough, she said softly, her eyes unwavering. Behind her. Maria exhaled in relief. Chloe whispered, Oh my God. And Lucas muttered, This is going viral fast. The hotel lobby, moments ago filled with arrogance and noise, now held only silence and fear. Tyrone's eyes widened as everything finally clicked. He stared at Olivia with disbelief and respect. You're her, he said quietly. You're the one who owns this place. Olivia gave the faintest nod. Yes, Mr. Jenkins. And I'm just getting started. The rain outside roared louder, like thunder applauding the truth that had just begun to surface. Within minutes, the world would know who she was, and the people who had mocked her would learn exactly how far justice could reach. For a long, silent moment, no one in the lobby moved. The truth lingered like static in the air, thick, heavy, and undeniable. Tyrone's quiet realization had cracked the fragile illusion holding the scene together. Olivia Brooks, the woman they had accused, insulted, and manhandled, was not a fraud. She was the owner, the CEO, the woman who signed their paychecks. Yet instead of revealing herself immediately, Olivia waited. She wanted to see how far their arrogance would go, how deep their lies ran. Harlan's phone buzzed in his hand, but his attention was on her, confusion shadowing his pride. Who are you really? He demanded. Olivia's calm gaze met his. You'll know soon enough. Behind her. Chloe's live stream viewership exploded. 5,000 people now watching live. Their comments scrolling faster than the eye could read. Is this real? She's the owner. Fire them all. Olivia's assistant, Leah, was feeding the real-time footage directly to HR Director Rebecca Klein, who was already en route to the hotel with legal officers and a copy of the company charter in her car. Rebecca listened to the audio stream, her expression growing colder by the second. Every word, every insult, every command from Harlan was being recorded and stored as evidence inside the lobby. Derek Singh stood frozen behind the counter, still logged into the system he'd just hacked. Olivia's AI software, silent, invisible, and precise, was mirroring his every move. The moment he altered her reservation file, the system generated a mirrored backup stamped with his login credentials, IP address, and timestamps. It was proof not just of bias, but of cyber fraud. A federal crime. Derek, Olivia said softly. I wouldn't press another key if I were you. Derek's head snapped up, guilt flashing in his eyes. I don't know what you're talking about. Then maybe the Chicago Cybercrimes Unit can explain it to you later, she said evenly. Because right now, you're deleting files you shouldn't even have access to. Harlan turned on him, furious. What? You told me you could wipe that reservation, Derek stammered. You told me to. Shut up, Harlan barked. The two glared at each other, cracks of fear forming between them. Meanwhile, Jenna stood quietly, her face pale. She had started this mess by doubting the woman at the counter. But now, watching Harlan unravel, guilt tightened in her chest. She whispered, Mr. Whitaker, maybe we should stop. Something's wrong here. Harlan snapped his fingers at her. You're done talking. You're all done talking. But his voice trembled now, and Olivia heard it. Power was slipping from him with every passing second. She turned to Maria, who still stood by the elevators, hesitant but hopeful. Maria, Olivia said gently, you said you've seen me before? The young woman nodded nervously. In the company newsletter. Ma'am, last summer, you were on the cover. Then tell them who I am, Olivia said. Maria hesitated for half a breath, then raised her voice. That's her, she said firmly. That's Ms. Olivia Brooks, the CEO of Lakeside Hospitality Group. The words struck the lobby like lightning. For a moment, the only sound was the rain hammering against the glass. Then Harlan laughed, forced, bitter, desperate. You expect me to believe that? The CEO of this company walking in here looking like that? Like what? Olivia asked quietly. Say it. He faltered. Like someone who doesn't belong here. Exactly, she said. And that's the problem. Chloe zoomed in on Olivia's face. The live chat exploded. She's brilliant. They're finished. This is history. Just then, two real Chicago police officers entered through the front doors, responding to an anonymous tip Leah had sent moments earlier. The sight of their real badges made Harlan stumble back. Officers, he cried. Finally, arrest this. But one of the officers raised his hand. Sir, we're here because of a report about a fake police call and possible harassment. Who's in charge here? Olivia met their gaze calmly. I am, she said, Olivia Brooks, CEO and owner of this property. She handed them her ID and corporate credentials. The officer glanced at them, then at her, his expression shifting immediately from doubt to respect. He turned to Harlan. Sir, we'll need you to step aside. What? Harlan sputtered. She's lying. Actually, Olivia said, her tone cool and deliberate. Your voice was just recorded lying to me about my own reservation. And your staff member here. She gestured toward Derek. Committed a digital crime on my system less than 10 minutes ago. So unless you'd like to add obstruction of justice to your record, I'd suggest you cooperate. Harlan's lips parted, but no words came out. His face was pale now, beads of sweat collecting on his forehead, behind him. Jenna lowered her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't mean to," she whispered. "I didn't know who you were." Olivia turned her gaze toward her. "You didn't have to know who I was to treat me with respect." The sentence hung heavy in the air. Even the officers stood still, absorbing the truth of it. One of them, a young black man, nodded faintly in agreement. "She's right," he murmured. Derek, now trembling, took a step back. I was just following orders," he muttered. "No," Olivia said softly. "You were following bias." The room fell completely silent. Then, from near the seating area, an elderly woman's voice broke through. "She's right," said Eleanor Hayes, a guest who had been watching from the beginning. "I've seen this before. I was refused service at a hotel in 1968 for being black. I thought we'd changed since then. But look at this." The crowd around her nodded. Chloe's live stream captured her face, aged but resolute, the comments flooded with empathy and outrage. History repeating itself. One wrote, "This is why we film everything." Olivia's eyes softened at the woman's courage. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Your voice matters more than you know." Meanwhile, Lucas Rivera stepped forward, his journalist instincts in full force. "Ms. Brooks," he said, "would you like to make a statement?" Olivia gave him a faint smile. "Not yet. I'd rather my actions speak first." Then, looking at Harlan, she added, "Call your regional director. Tell him Olivia Brooks is here, and she's not leaving until every complaint buried under your watch is opened." Harlan's face twisted. "Victor Hale retired months ago," he snapped. "He has nothing to do with this." "Oh, he has everything to do with this," Olivia replied. 5 formal complaints vanished under his signature. "You covered for him, didn't you?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Derek's eyes darted nervously. "You said those files were gone," he whispered. "You told me they'd never surface again." Harlan's composure cracked completely. "You idiot," he hissed. "You weren't supposed to say that out loud." Chloe's camera caught every word. The comment section went wild. Within seconds, clips of Harlan's outburst were being shared across Reddit. X and TikTok. Hashtag Lakeside Scandal began trending. Maria stepped closer to Olivia, voice trembling but strong. "Miss Brooks," she said, "I'll help you find the rest of the files. I can access the internal complaint logs." Olivia nodded. "Thank you. Maria, you'll be hearing from HR directly." Then she turned to Harlan, her voice firm but calm. "You had your chance to fix this quietly. Instead, you chose pride." His shoulders sagged. "You can't do this to me. I already am," she said softly. At that moment, Rebecca Klein entered the lobby flanked by 2 legal officers. She looked directly at Harlan. "Mr. Whitaker, step away from the desk, effective immediately. You're suspended pending investigation for misconduct, discrimination, and embezzlement." The gasps that followed filled the lobby like a storm breaking. Guests stood up. Employees whispered. Harlan's world had collapsed in minutes as the officers escorted him toward the exit. He muttered, "You'll regret this." Olivia's calm eyes followed him. "No," she said quietly. "I'll remember it. Outside." Thunder rolled over Lake Michigan. Inside, justice had finally begun to speak, and it was only the beginning. The moment Rebecca Klein stepped into the lobby, the atmosphere shifted completely. The chaos, the arrogance, the tension. It all froze under her steady, commanding presence. She was a woman who had spent 20 years handling corporate crises, but never one this explosive. Her eyes scanned the room quickly, taking in every detail. Harlan Whitaker pale and trembling near the reception desk, Jenna wiping silent tears, Derek trying to minimize his open screen. and Olivia Brooks, calm, dignified, standing exactly where she belonged. "Ms. Brooks," Rebecca said firmly, "we're recording this officially. Do you want to proceed?" Olivia nodded once, her gaze fixed on Harlan. "Yes, start with him." Rebecca turned to Harlan, her voice clipped and cold. "Mr. Whitaker, you are hereby terminated, effective immediately, for gross misconduct, racial discrimination, and falsification of internal records. Your access to company systems is revoked, and all assets under your management are frozen pending a full audit." Harlan's mouth fell open. "You can't." "I can," Olivia interrupted quietly. "And I just did." The words landed like a hammer, for a long moment. The lobby was dead silent except for the soft hum of the chandelier lights above. Harlan's face twisted with disbelief. "You don't understand," he stammered. "I've run this place for 15 years. "Yes," Olivia said. 15 years of selective service, hidden reports, and bias disguised as professionalism. You didn't run this place. Harlan, you poisoned it." Chloe Bennett's camera caught every word, her live stream surging past 10,000 viewers. Lucas Rivera whispered into his phone, reporting live for his online column. "This is it. CEO Olivia Brooks is firing her entire management staff on camera. This is unprecedented." Rebecca handed a folder to one of the legal officers, who began collecting ID badges. Harlan's voice rose, desperate. "You can't just ruin my life over one mistake." "One mistake?" Olivia's tone was sharp but steady. "You humiliated a guest, assaulted your CEO, and then tried to frame her using fake police. That's not a mistake. It's a pattern." The crowd of guests murmured in shock. One woman muttered, "Good for her," while another whispered, "About time someone stood up to people like that." Jenna's trembling voice cut through the noise. "Ms. Brooks, please. I didn't know. I was just doing what I was told." Olivia turned toward her, her expression softer but still resolute. "You saw wrong being done and said nothing. Silence doesn't make you innocent. Jenna, it makes you part of it. But I do believe in second chances. You'll have to earn it." Jenna nodded through tears, whispering, "Thank you." Harlan slammed his fist on the counter. "This is ridiculous. Derek, say something." But Derek had gone pale, staring at the laptop screen as Rebecca's assistant plugged in a drive. "Ms. Klein," the assistant said, "you'll want to see this." The file opened to reveal a full log of transactions, messages, and system modifications, all linked to Derek's login. One particular entry caught Olivia's eye. A wire transfer of $50,000 routed to an offshore account under the name H. Whitaker Holdings. The evidence was undeniable. Rebecca's voice was steady. "Mr. Singh, you're under investigation for digital fraud and aiding embezzlement. Security will escort you out." Derek began to shake. "No, please. I was just following his orders. He told me it was part of a bonus system." "A bonus system?" Olivia repeated softly, stepping closer. "You hacked into your CEO's private files and stole company funds. And you thought that was a bonus system?" Derek's lip quivered. "I didn't know what I was doing." "Yes," Olivia said. "You did. You just didn't think you'd get caught." Rebecca nodded at the officers, who stepped forward to take Derek by the arm as they led him away. The young man broke down completely, pleading. "Please, Ms. Brooks, I've got family." "Then you should have remembered that before betraying your job," Olivia said quietly. "I built this company to give people security, not excuses." Harlan watched in disbelief as his accomplice was taken out in handcuffs. "You can't arrest him," he barked. "You have no right." One of the officers turned to him. "Actually, we do. We just received confirmation from the state attorney's office. You're both under investigation for embezzlement and cybercrime. You'll need to come with us. For the first time." Fear truly entered Harlan's eyes. "You don't know what you're doing," he said, his voice trembling. "You'll regret crossing me." Olivia met his glare with calm defiance. "No, Harlan, you'll regret underestimating me." The officers took him by the arm, leading him toward the doors as the crowd of guests recorded and applauded. Outside, flashing police lights reflected off the rain-soaked pavement as Harlan stepped into the drizzle. The reality of his downfall finally set in. Back inside, Olivia exhaled slowly, the weight of the moment finally catching up to her. Rebecca handed her a tablet. "It's already going viral," she said quietly. "Thousands are watching. You could use this as a message for reform." Olivia nodded, looking around the lobby. The same lobby that had once symbolized pride and excellence, now tainted by arrogance and prejudice. "Yes," she said, "but we'll rebuild it, starting today." She turned toward Maria Gonzalez, who stood near the front desk, still stunned by everything that had unfolded. "Maria," Olivia said softly, "you showed courage when others stayed silent. You defended a stranger when it could have cost you your job. That's the kind of leadership I need in this company." Maria's eyes widened. "Ma'am, are you serious?" "As serious as the truth," Olivia said, offering a small smile. "Effective immediately. You're promoted to interim general manager." The entire lobby broke into applause. Maria covered her mouth in disbelief, tears forming in her eyes. "Thank you, Ms. Brooks. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Olivia said. Chloe turned her camera toward Maria, capturing her emotional reaction. The live stream chat exploded with messages of support. "She deserves it. Finally, justice. This is history in the making." Meanwhile, Rebecca was on a call with corporate headquarters, coordinating a company-wide lockdown on financial accounts connected to the embezzlement ring. "We've confirmed that the missing 50,000 was only part of a larger pattern," she said. "We're launching a full audit across all 82 properties." Olivia nodded. "Do it. Every document, every report. I want to know who else thought they could hide behind this system." As Rebecca walked away to coordinate, Olivia turned back to the crowd. "I owe every guest here an apology," she said, her voice steady but warm. "No one should ever be treated the way I was treated today. Lakeside hospitality was built on respect, not discrimination. And starting now, we're going back to those roots." The guests applauded softly, some in tears. Chloe lowered her camera slightly, her own voice trembling. "Miss Brooks," she said, "what happens next?" Olivia looked out through the rain-streaked windows toward the city skyline. "Next," she said, "we reform, we heal, and we make sure this never happens again." Outside, the police car doors shut with a heavy thud as Harlan and Derek were taken away. Inside, Maria took her first steps as a leader, greeting guests with genuine warmth, and as Chloe's camera panned across the lobby, showing the arrested men leaving, the new manager rising, and the CEO standing tall, the world watched, silent and awestruck, as justice finally turned into action. By the next morning, the Lakeside Pinnacle Hotel was on every news network in the country. The video of Olivia Brooks's confrontation with her own staff had gone viral overnight. 20 million views and counting. Hashtags like #LakesideJustice and #RespectForAll flooded social media. Guests who had been in the lobby during the incident posted testimonies, confirming every word of what happened. News anchors debated the story, calling it one of the most shocking corporate turnarounds of the decade. Yet, inside Olivia's Chicago office, there was no celebration, only the hum of focused determination. Olivia sat at the long walnut conference table, her eyes tired but steady. Before her lay dozens of open files, evidence pulled from hotel servers overnight. Rebecca Klein stood beside her, phone pressed to her ear, giving instructions to the company's legal team. Freeze all pending transactions from Harlan Whitaker's accounts, Rebecca said sharply. Also, alert our compliance department. Victor Hale's pension fund needs to be reviewed immediately. Olivia looked out the glass wall toward the lake. The same storm clouds that had soaked the hotel the night before now hung low over the city, gray and silent. "What's the total damage so far?" she asked. Rebecca sighed. "Preliminary audit shows about $300,000 in unaccounted funds spread across 5 years, mostly hidden under maintenance contracts and fraudulent vendor payouts." "And Hale?" Olivia asked. "He signed off on every one of them," Rebecca said grimly. "He used his retirement settlement to cover the last batch of missing funds. It's a web of deception, and it all leads back to him." Olivia nodded slowly. "Then he's next." Across from her sat Maria Gonzalez, now in a crisp new navy blue suit, still adjusting to her title as interim general manager. She looked nervous but resolute. "Ma'am," she said softly, "I've reviewed the staff files. There were at least 5 complaints of racial bias under Harlan's management that never reached corporate, all dismissed or rewritten by Derek." Olivia's jaw tightened. 5 silenced voices. She said quietly, "That's 5 too many." She turned to Leah Simmons, who was managing a wall of monitors displaying live comments and reports from the other 81 properties in the Lakeside chain. "Leah, how's the team handling the crisis response?" Leah adjusted her headset. "Public trust is rebuilding fast. Guests are calling to commend your transparency. But there's something else. You might want to see this." She tapped a key, projecting a live stream onto the wall. Outside the hotel, hundreds of people had gathered in the rain, holding signs that read, "Equality at every check-in" and "Justice has no dress code." At the center of the crowd stood Chloe Bennett and Lucas Rivera, both broadcasting live to their followers. "We're here at Lakeside Pinnacle," Chloe said passionately, her voice echoing through the speakers, "where a black CEO exposed discrimination inside her own empire. But instead of vengeance, she's using this moment to bring real change. This is what leadership looks like." Olivia listened in silence, her eyes glistening. She never sought fame. She sought fairness. But seeing strangers stand for what she believed in filled her with a quiet kind of pride. "Rebecca," she said softly, "prepare a company-wide statement. I'll deliver it myself." 30 minutes later, the hotel's ballroom was packed with staff, reporters, and community leaders. Cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking. Olivia stepped onto the stage in a tailored charcoal suit, no notes in her hands, only conviction in her voice. "Yesterday," she began, "I entered this hotel as a stranger and was treated like one. I was judged not by my record, my work, or my worth, but by my skin and my clothes. What happened here was wrong. But what happens next will define who we are." The room was silent. "This isn't about punishing individuals," she continued. "It's about fixing a culture that allowed bias and greed to hide behind polite smiles and corporate policies. Effective immediately, we are launching a full audit across all 82 Lakeside properties. Every complaint ignored will be reopened. Every guest mistreated will receive an apology. Every employee silenced will be heard." Applause broke out across the room, quiet at first, then rising like a wave. Maria watched from the front row, tears in her eyes. Leah filmed from the back, sending the feed directly to social media. Olivia continued, her tone firm but warm. "We will also establish the Lakeside Victim Support Fund, with an initial budget of $5 million. This fund will provide legal aid, counseling, and re-employment support for anyone who has faced discrimination in our industry, whether they worked for us or not, because justice doesn't stop at our doors." Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. Rebecca watched proudly, knowing this was more than a speech. It was history. And finally, Olivia said, her voice softening, to those who stood up when it wasn't easy, people like Maria Gonzalez, who spoke the truth, and Tyrone Jenkins, who chose integrity over fear. You are the reason this company will rise again. Lakeside will no longer be a name tied to luxury alone. It will stand for dignity, equality, and respect. The applause that followed shook the room. Some staff members stood, clapping with tears in their eyes. Even journalists lowered their cameras for a moment, moved by the sincerity in her tone. When the speech ended, Olivia stepped off the stage to a swarm of reporters. One shouted, "Ms. Brooks, what will happen to Harlan Whitaker and the others involved?" She paused, looking directly at the cameras. "The law will take care of them," she said. "My job is to take care of the people they hurt." Outside, the crowd cheered as she exited the building, the storm finally breaking into soft sunlight. But behind the relief, new challenges were brewing. Rebecca approached, holding a tablet. "We have a development," she said quietly. "Victor Hale's lawyer just reached out. He's denying everything, but we traced a series of offshore accounts that match his old credentials." Olivia sighed. "He's been doing this for years." "Do you want me to file charges?" Rebecca asked. "Not yet," Olivia replied. "I want to face him first." Back at the hotel, Maria began her first day as interim general manager. She gathered the staff in the lobby, the same place where Olivia had been humiliated just 24 hours earlier, and spoke from the heart. "What happened here will never happen again," she said. "This hotel will treat every person who walks through those doors like they matter, because they do." Her staff applauded. Among them, even Jenna stood, eyes red but hopeful, grateful for a second chance. Meanwhile, Leah and Lucas coordinated online updates, sharing clips of the reform announcement within hours. Lakeside's reputation began to recover. Major networks praised Olivia's transparency, calling it a model of modern leadership. Investors sent messages of support, and in communities across the country, people began using the phrase Lakeside Standard to describe ethical business reform. That evening, Olivia returned home to her penthouse overlooking the lake. The sun had finally broken through the clouds, casting golden light across the water. She stood by the window, sipping tea, her reflection blending with the skyline she helped build. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Leah, trending #1 worldwide. It read. Olivia smiled faintly, but didn't respond. For her, the true victory wasn't in headlines or views. It was in knowing that the people who had once been silenced were now being heard. Still, she knew the fight wasn't over. "Tomorrow," she whispered to herself, "we start again." Because for Olivia Brooks, justice wasn't a moment. It was a mission. 4 days after the public takedown, the reform Olivia Brooks had promised was in full motion, but not without resistance. The investigation into Victor Hale's hidden network of embezzlement had deepened, uncovering a pattern that stretched across multiple lakeside properties. Olivia sat in her private office overlooking Lake Michigan, scrolling through audit reports that seemed to confirm her worst fears. Hale hadn't acted alone. He had been part of a quiet circle of former executives who manipulated vendor contracts, using offshore companies to siphon profits from hotel maintenance and security budgets. "He used trust as a shield," Rebecca Klein said grimly, setting another folder on the desk. "They buried everything under layers of shell accounts. It's been happening for nearly a decade." Olivia exhaled slowly, her tone calm but edged with fire. "Then it ends now. No more secrets." She stood and looked out the window, the city lights flickering in the distance like small embers of truth waiting to ignite. Since the scandal, she had launched a company-wide integrity initiative, mandatory equity training, third-party complaint channels. and AI monitoring of employee behavior. It wasn't just damage control, it was transformation. But with reform came risk. That morning, her security director had alerted her to something disturbing. Someone had been following her car since the previous night. A silver sedan, tinted windows. The report read, she didn't flinch. Threats didn't scare her, silence did. Keep eyes on it. She told Tyrone Jenkins, now promoted to head of security at the Pinnacle. If they want to intimidate me, they'll have to do better than a tail. Tyrone nodded. We've got your back. Ma'am. Always. Meanwhile, Maria Gonzalez was thriving in her new role as general manager. Her first act of leadership had been to reopen every unresolved complaint. She spent her evenings calling former employees personally, offering apologies and second chances. One of those calls was to an older woman named Clara Washington, a housekeeper who had been fired unjustly under Harlan's rule for speaking too boldly. When Maria told her the truth was finally coming out, Clara cried on the phone, "I never thought anyone would care," she said. Maria smiled softly. "We care now, and we're not stopping." Back at headquarters, Leah Simmons walked into Olivia's office carrying an iPad with new data. The Lakeside Victim Fund applications hit 300 in just 2 days. She said, "Stories are pouring in from across the country. People fired, silenced, ignored. They're thanking you." Olivia glanced at the screen, names, faces, histories, and her chest tightened. "No," she said gently. "They're not thanking me. They're reminding us why we can't slow down." Across the city, Chloe Bennett and Lucas Rivera were preparing a follow-up documentary titled "The Woman Who Changed Hospitality" in their interviews. Guests and employees spoke about Olivia's courage. She didn't just fire people. One staff member said, "She redefined what leadership looks like." The teaser alone hit 5 million views in one night. But while the world praised her, the shadows behind the scandal stirred. Late one evening, as Olivia left the office, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She answered calmly. "This is Brooks." The voice on the other end was low, sharp, familiar. "You should have left it alone. It said, you have no idea who you're up against." She didn't hesitate. "Victor," she said coldly, "if you're calling to threaten me, don't waste your breath. The truth already has your name on it." There was silence, then a soft chuckle before the line went dead. Olivia lowered the phone, unfazed, coward. She muttered, that same night. She stood before the Lakeside Board of Directors during an emergency meeting streamed privately across all properties. "Our company stands at a crossroads," she began. "We can either cling to comfort and lose our soul, or we can rebuild with courage. I choose courage." The room was silent as she outlined her next move. The Lakeside Equity Initiative, a permanent internal division focused on eliminating systemic bias and promoting equal opportunity. It wasn't just a program, it was a promise. She ended her speech with words that made even the most stoic executives pause. "We don't clean the surface here. We dig until we reach the root." The following morning, protesters turned into supporters. Crowds outside the hotel began carrying signs of hope instead of outrage. "Thank you, Olivia Brooks. Respect lives here." The storm had become a movement. News anchors described it as the most comprehensive anti-discrimination reform in corporate hospitality history. Still, danger lingered. Rebecca approached Olivia later that day with new findings. "We traced Hale's last transaction. He's been funneling funds through a defunct property in Florida, and he's hiring lawyers." Olivia nodded, her expression calm but determined. "Good," she said. "Then we'll meet him in court, not in silence." She turned to Leah. "Schedule a press conference for tomorrow. I'm done reacting. It's time to lead the narrative. That evening." As Olivia walked through the nearly empty lobby of the Pinnacle, she paused beneath the chandelier where Harlan had once screamed at her to get out. The light above shimmered softly across the marble floor, reflecting her calm face. Maria approached quietly. "You're still here," she said. Olivia smiled faintly. "This place almost broke me once. Now it reminds me what resilience looks like. Outside." The rain began to fall again, but this time, it felt cleansing, not heavy. Olivia stepped out beneath it, coat over her shoulders, face lifted to the sky. For the first time in months, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, peace wrapped in purpose. Tomorrow would bring headlines, lawsuits, and more fights for justice. But tonight, she allowed herself a rare moment of quiet victory, because she knew that every great reform came with risk, and every risk was worth taking when the cause was right. 4 months later, the Lakeside Pinnacle Hotel stood reborn. The once tainted lobby now gleamed with new energy, not from the chandeliers or the polished marble floors, but from the people who filled it, diverse, proud, and united. Behind the front desk hung a new sign in silver letters, "Respect for All." It wasn't just decoration. It was a declaration. Maria Gonzalez, now officially the general manager, adjusted her name badge and smiled as she greeted a family checking in. Her voice carried warmth, the kind of tone that made guests feel seen and valued. For her, every welcome was a quiet act of defiance against the prejudice that had once ruled this space. Upstairs, Olivia Brooks watched from the mezzanine, her reflection in the glass blending with the morning sunlight. The storm that had nearly destroyed her company had instead forged it into something stronger. Since that day, Lakeside hospitality had become a national symbol of reform. The Lakeside Equity Initiative had trained more than 10,000 employees across 82 properties, turning what began as scandal into a blueprint for justice in corporate America. In the months following the incident, the consequences for the guilty had been swift and unrelenting. Harlan Whitaker had been sentenced to 3 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to embezzlement and falsifying financial records. His mugshot made national headlines. Once a man of power, now a cautionary tale. Derek Singh received a 2-year suspended sentence for hacking. Along with community service at a digital ethics program, Caleb Monroe, the youngest of the group, avoided charges but was barred from the industry. He later wrote a public letter of apology, admitting how blind loyalty had led him down the wrong path. Jenna Caldwell, once the fearful receptionist, had entered a corporate rehabilitation program sponsored by Olivia's new fund, after therapy and training. She found employment again, this time at a lakeside property in Dallas, where she worked under Maria's mentorship. "You gave me a second chance," Jenna had told Olivia through tears. "I won't waste it." Olivia's reply had been simple. "Then make it mean something." As for Victor Hale, the once powerful regional director who had enabled it all, his empire had crumbled quietly. Civil lawsuits stripped him of his assets, his pension revoked, his name erased from every board and partnership he'd once boasted about. He lived in isolation in a small Illinois town, far from the skyline that had once been his kingdom in the corporate world. His downfall became a lesson repeated in business schools. Power without ethics is self-destruction, while the wrongdoers faced justice. Olivia focused on healing what was broken. She expanded the Lakeside Victim Support Fund nationwide, partnering with legal aid groups and diversity foundations. By January, the fund had already assisted over 400 people, from former hotel workers to service employees across other industries, helping them fight wrongful terminations and discrimination. The media called it a quiet revolution born from a single act of defiance. Yet Olivia never called it a revolution. To her, It was responsibility. Justice isn't revenge. She often said in interviews, it's permanent change. The day of the company's 4-month anniversary arrived with crisp air and gentle light over Lake Michigan. Olivia hosted a small ceremony in the newly renovated lobby, surrounded by employees, guests, and local press, standing beside Maria, Leah, and Rebecca. She addressed the crowd in her calm, eloquent way. 4 months ago, this place was a scene of division and pain. She began, "Today, it stands as proof that respect can rebuild what arrogance destroys. We didn't just fix a hotel, we reclaimed its soul." Applause filled the room, genuine and warm. Maria wiped her eyes. Tyrone Jenkins, now head of corporate security, stood near the entrance, his uniform crisp, pride in his stance. Even Chloe Bennett and Lucas Rivera attended, their cameras rolling, not as reporters chasing scandal, but as storytellers documenting redemption. Their documentary, The 15 Minutes That Changed Everything, had premiered on national television 2 weeks earlier, drawing millions of viewers and sparking discussions in boardrooms and classrooms alike. After the ceremony, as the crowd mingled, Olivia stepped aside to watch the lake. The surface shimmered with sunlight, calm and clear, a mirror of her journey. Rebecca approached quietly, handing her a folder, the quarterly report. She said with a smile, "Guest satisfaction up 23%. Employee retention at an all-time high. Profits recovered. Investors are calling you the woman who turned scandal into strategy." Olivia chuckled softly. "I'll take that. But I didn't do it alone." She looked toward Maria laughing with guests, Leah chatting with reporters, Tyrone helping a guest with luggage. They did it. All of them. As the day faded, Olivia returned to her office overlooking the water. On her desk sat a framed photograph taken years ago, the first lakeside hotel ribbon cutting, back when she was just a 27-year-old dreamer in a borrowed suit. She traced the edge of the frame with her finger and whispered, "We made it, then," as if the universe wanted to affirm her words. Her phone buzzed with a message from Chloe. CNN just announced it. Lakeside Equity Initiative nominated for National Humanitarian Impact Award. Olivia smiled, tears filling her eyes. "Good," she said softly. "That means people are paying attention." That night, before leaving the office, she recorded one final message for the company newsletter. Her voice was steady, heartfelt, and true. "We can't rewrite the past," she said, "but we can decide what its legacy will be. We can choose dignity over pride, courage over silence, and justice over comfort." Lakeside's story began with pain, but it will continue with purpose, because the only thing stronger than discrimination is unity, and the only thing more powerful than fear is change. She paused, then smiled. To every person listening, thank you for believing that one act of truth can change an entire system. She ended the recording and stood by the window one last time, outside. The lights of the hotel glowed softly against the night sky, reflecting in the still waters of the lake. The city that had once judged her now looked up to her. Olivia Brooks, the woman they once tried to throw out of her own hotel, had rebuilt not just a company, but a legacy. And as she turned off the lights and stepped out into the cool Chicago night, her words lingered in the air like a quiet promise. Justice is not a moment. It's the beginning of everything. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it moved you, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes in justice and respect. Your support helps keep these powerful stories alive.